Hi everyone. This is Hamilton here today, and today I want to talk about tithing. I just want to warn you that this session is going to be a long session because I want to really do justice to what I've discovered. For a long time, I've listened to people speak and all of that. I've learned a lot from people, but what I've tried to do right now is to look at the scriptures with a different lens, not what people have told me, but to discover the scriptures myself. And what I've discovered is so profound, and I really would love to share this discovery with you. So please pardon me that this video is going to be a long video. So tithing, I think the first time the word or the concept tithing was mentioned was in Genesis. That was when Abraham, or Avram at the time, because he hadn't become Abraham at the time, when he went out to to rescue Lot, his nephew, from the kings who had captured them when they raided Sodom and Gomorrah. So he went there with his men. They rescued Lot, and they brought in a big plunder back to the land they were in. So when they did that, there was this individual who was king and priest at the same time. The character's name was Melchizedek. And the Bible says that when he got back, Melchizedek offered Abraham, or Avram, he offered him bread as well as wine. And then Abraham was compelled in his spirit to give him a tenth of everything he had gotten from the plunder. So this was the first time a tenth was ever mentioned. Then fast forward about 4 centuries after, when Israel left Egypt and got to the promised land, before they got to the promised land and they were before Mount Sinai, Moses had gone up to the mountain to receive the tablets of the commandments from God. And as he came down, there was chaos because Israel had started worshiping a golden calf, which they said brought them out of Egypt and all of that. Moses got upset, smashed the covenant with him. Then he called to Israel, that who was allied with God. And at that time, Levi, the sons of Levi, came to Moses, and Moses and them went through the city, and those who were still worshiping idols, they were slaughtered. Lots of people were slaughtered on that day. And God said, because of what Levi has done, Levi will no longer be a part of Israel. Or let me say, Levi is now mine, God says. Because at that point in time, they had 13 tribes of Israel. There were 13 tribes. So God took Levi to be his own possession. So at that point, they went back to being 12 tribes of Israel, and Levi became God's possession. And God gave them a command that Levi was going to be working in his temple, serving him, worshiping him, and all that. And all the other tribes were supposed to give a tenth of their agricultural produce to Levi. Why? Because Levi does not have land. So understand this. The reason why God instituted the tithe at that time was because Levi had no land. They had no physical possession. So because of that, they could not farm, and they could not, rear animals and all that, because they had no land of their own. So God says anything the land produces, 10% of it will be given to Levi. And God was using that to teach Israel generosity, to give to your people who do not have. That's the Levi who do not have land. And understand one thing, when God instituted this command, the command was restricted only to agricultural produce, because it says that anything the land produces, and all the sheep, all the animals that go underneath the shepherd's rod, and the fruit of the vine, everything that comes from the ground, 10% of it will be given to Levi. But not only to Levi, because God also extended it to the orphans, the aliens, the widows. So the understanding there is that God instituted tithing to teach Israel generosity towards the Levites who did not have, and towards the aliens, the orphans, and the widows. And that was it. I just want to make something clear here. When Israel left Egypt, I know sometimes some of us think that, they were farmers and all of that, but they were not just farmers. Some of them were goldsmiths, they were blacksmiths, they were bricklayers, they were carpenters, they were, embroiders. They had all kinds of skills because they worked in the palace, they worked in the houses of the Egyptians. So they learned a lot of skills while they were in Egypt. So they didn't live there as farmers. Perhaps their kids were tending to the field and to the animals while they worked as slaves for the Egyptians. So the Israelites learned skills, but God did not tell them to give a tenth of their skills. He only told them to give a tenth of what the land produces to the Levites. So get that down. So now, fast forward to the New Testament. When the New Testament came into being, the only time in the New Testament the Bible talked about tithing was when Jesus was chastising the Pharisees, and when he told them that you guys give a tenth of your spices, but you've neglected justice and fairness. That was what Jesus said. And then he didn't condemn them, but he said they were giving a tenth of their spices. So when I started thinking about this, I was like, did Jesus tithe? Did he give a tenth of anything? And the Bible doesn't tell us anything about that. But when you think about it, Jesus's ministry was being supported by people. People supported him with money, with food, with all kinds of stuff. But there was never a mention that Jesus gave a tithe or gave a tenth to anybody. They didn't do that. The only thing the Bible tells us is that Jesus' disciples had a money bag that was with Judas Iscariot. And from there, they were able to help those who were in need. So that was what the disciples saw in Jesus. They had a bag with which he helped the needy. And that was what they carried on. And during the time when the Gentiles became believers and Paul the Apostle was going around spreading the gospel amongst them, some Jewish believers went to the Gentile churches and tried to confuse them, telling them that they had to eat kosher and at the same time that they had to be circumcised for them to be true Christians. And they had a sharp argument with Paul, and they said, okay, fine, let's go to the elders in Jerusalem to clear everything up. So they went to the elders, to Peter, James, that's the brother of Jesus, and all the elders there. And when they resolved the whole issue, what they told them was, okay, number one, you guys should abstain from food given to idols, no idol worshiping, no sexual immorality, none of this stuff. But they never told them to give tithe. And you know why they never told them to give tithe? Because understand one thing. The tithe was a command that God gave to Israel. It was never given to the Gentiles. The Gentiles were never commanded anywhere in the scriptures to give a tithe. Why? Because the Gentiles were never part of the 12 tribes of Israel. So it was just the tithe was a Jewish thing. It was never a Gentile thing. The only the major things that Paul mentioned or that Paul teaches in the New Testament in terms of giving, there were three major things that he stressed. One was giving to ministers. And that's why he said, do not muzzle an ox while he's treading the grain. So he talked about giving to ministers. And the New Testament also talks about giving to support the ministry. But the majority of the giving in the New Testament was all about giving to the poor and the needy, which is what God's heart is all about. And that's what Jesus practiced, where they were not making money per se. They were being supported, and from what they were supporting them with, they were giving some part of what they were giving to the needy. So fine, let's kind of try to summarize here. Number one, the spirit behind tithing is generosity. That was what God was trying to teach. God was trying to teach Israel to be generous towards their brothers who did not have. They didn't have land. So that was what happened there. And also, the tithing was a command to Israel. It was never commanded to Gentiles. Like you and I, we're never commanded to tithe. It's a foreign concept. It's a Jewish concept. I don't even think they do it today, because there's no temple in Israel anymore like it was before, where the Levites had to be there to worship God and all that. That's not happening. So I don't know. They may be tithing, but different sermon. But the idea here is that the Jews were the ones who were commanded to tithe. The Gentiles were never commanded to tithe. So if today you are being told you're supposed to be tithing, it's a foreign concept. It's a wrong concept. It's not correct. You as a Gentile who believes in Jesus Christ, you're not commanded to tithe. And understand one thing, that the New Testament, the giving was primarily for the poor. So The question you want to ask yourself today is this: am I supposed to be giving a tithe? Am I supposed to give it to my church? Yes. You're supposed to give to your church because you see a need in your church. Your church needs to keep the lights on. Your church needs to pay their ministers. So you give to support your church. It is not an obligation. It is something voluntary. You give because you see a need and you want to give to meet those needs. But at the same time, you have to also give to meet the needs of the poor. I think for a lot of us, we have forgotten that concept. We are more concerned with giving, quote unquote, a tithe because we believe that it is, probably we've been brainwashed to a certain point where we believe that if we give to our churches, they are going to be blessed. And that's why we religiously keep giving to the church, even when you see that the church doesn't need the funds. You keep giving and giving and giving because it has become routine. And some of us think that, oh, it is when I give to the church that I'm going to be blessed. But that's not true. It is not true. Because the Bible says that he that gives to the poor lends to God, and you receive a reward for what he has done. So God is concerned about we giving to the needy. And that needy individual or organization could be your church. It could be the guy on the street. It could even be your parents who are poor and needy. The idea, the concept there is that we should give out of conviction and not out of guilt. Because some of us today, the reason why we give a tithe every month or every bi-weekly is because we feel this guilt if we don't give it. We feel that we've sinned, we've done wrong, we're going to hell or something. That is not true. Your giving should come out of conviction. It should come out of you seeing a need and wanting to meet that need. So this is something I've discovered, that tithing is done. It's not for us. We're never commanded to tithe as Gentiles, never commanded to tithe. And tithing doesn't even exist today. So if you give with conviction, give with a pure heart, know that you are giving to meet a need. Whether it's the ministry you're going to, or whether it's the pastor who's leading you because the guy has needs, or probably you're giving to meet the needs of the poor, because the poor are always in the heart of God. Thank you. I just hope this makes sense. Thank you. Bye-bye.